Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel General Hospital today. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The oppressive stillness of the Sterling University Hospital room was broken only by the rhythmic, artificial hiss of the ventilator and the steady metronomic beep of the heart monitor. It was a symphony of suspended animation, a cruel limbo where hope and dread waged a silent war. Laura Collins, her face etched with a fatigue that went far beyond a single sleepless night, gently dabbed a cool cloth against her son Nicholas Cassadine's forehead. His skin was pale, almost waxy, a stark contrast to the dark lashes resting on his cheeks. He looked peaceful, a cruel parody of sleep that belied the catastrophic neurological storm that had ravaged his body. "The doctors say the swelling has gone down another fraction of a millimeter," she said, her voice a hushed murmur meant for both her son and the room's other occupant. It's progress, Nicholas. Tiny, but it's something. You have to keep fighting. Spencer needs you. I need you." Across the room, Spencer Cassadine stood like a sentinel at the window, his back to the bed. He stared out at the Port Charles skyline, but his eyes were unseeing, focused on an internal landscape of guilt and rage. His father's words, spoken in this very room just days before the attack, echoed in his mind with the force of a physical blow. "You are a disappointment. A failure. You are no son of mine." He had let those words fester. He had turned away, and now his father might never have the chance to take them back. He flinched as Laura's hand came to rest gently on his shoulder. "Spencer? You should talk to him. They say hearing a familiar voice can help, even when," her voice trailed off, unable to finish the thought. "What should I say, Grandma?" Spencer's voice was rough, stripped raw. "Should I apologize for being such a profound disappointment? Should I tell him I'm sorry that my very existence was such a burden to him that he felt the need to fake his own death and abandon me? Would that help pull him out of this?" The bitterness was a shield, a desperate attempt to armor himself against the overwhelming tide of grief threatening to pull him under. Laura's grip tightened. "He was trying to protect you in his own misguided way. He came back. He was trying to make amends. This isn't how your story ends." I refused to believe it. Before Spencer could form a retort, the door swung open and Dr. Hamilton Finn entered, his expression a carefully neutral mask that immediately set both of them on edge. He held a digital chart, but his eyes were fixed on them, filled with a somber gravity. "Laura Spencer," he began, his tone measured and professional, yet softened by a genuine empathy. "We have the latest results from the EEG and the repeat MRI. The air left the room." Laura instinctively moved closer to Nicholas's bedside, her hand finding his. Spencer turned from the window, his body tense, bracing for impact. "The news is cautious," Finn said, choosing his words with the precision of a bomb disposal expert. "The physical swelling in his brain is continuing to subside, which is exactly what we want to see. His body is stabilizing." "But," Spencer prompted, his voice tight, "but the neurological activity, it's not showing the signs of improvement we'd hope for at this stage," Finn continued, his gaze dropping to the chart before meeting theirs again. "The patterns are still inconsistent, showing minimal higher brain function. We've reduced the sedatives to their lowest possible levels, and there's been no change in his responsiveness." Laura's hand flew to her mouth. "What are you saying, Finn?" "I'm saying we're entering a critical window," he explained gently. "The immediate danger from the initial trauma has passed. Now we move from critical care to long-term prognosis. Every day that passes without significant cognitive response makes the path to a full recovery more difficult." The unspoken word hung in the sterile air between them. Coma. Not just a medically induced state, but a persistent vegetative one. A permanent twilight. "We're not giving up," Finn said firmly, seeing the devastation on their faces. "Not by a long shot. We'll continue with all available therapies. But I need you to understand the reality of the situation. You need to prepare yourselves for all possible outcomes." Spencer turned back to the window, his jaw clenched so tight it ached. Prepare themselves? How does one prepare for the permanent loss of a parent he'd just gotten back, only to be locked in a battle of bitter words? The guilt was a living thing, gnawing at his insides. Laura, ever the matriarch, straightened her shoulders, though her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. What's the next step, Finn? We wait, he said softly. And we hope. And we talk to him. Keep fighting, Nicholas, he said, addressing the still figure in the bed. Your family is here. They're waiting for you. With a final sympathetic nod, Finn exited, leaving the heavy silence to settle back over the room, now infinitely more profound and terrifying. Across town, in the sleek, modern confines of the Metro Court Pool, the atmosphere was a study in stark contrast. Sunlight glittered off the turquoise water, and the air was filled with the gentle clink of glassware and the low hum of affluent conversation. But at a small table near the cabanas, a storm was brewing. Its center the fiery-haired Trina Robinson. She stared at her mother, Portia Robinson, a respected doctor and the chief of staff at General Hospital, with an expression of pure, unadulterated betrayal. You knew. Trina's voice was low, but it vibrated with an intensity that made several nearby patrons glance over. All this time you knew that Spencer was alive, that he was being held captive on that island, and you said nothing? Portia shifted uncomfortably in her wicker chair, her perfectly manicured hands twisting the stem of her iced tea glass. Trina, please lower your voice. It wasn't that simple. It seems incredibly simple to me, Mom. Trina shot back, her composure cracking. My boyfriend, the man I love, was in mortal danger. You had information that could have, I don't know, spurred a search party sooner? Given us hope? And you kept it to yourself. You lied to my face every single day. I was bound by patient confidentiality. Portia insisted, her own professional demeanor fraying at the edges. Essex was my patient. The information he divulged about seeing Spencer was part of his psychiatric treatment. I couldn't just break that trust. A trust that was more important than my trust? Trina's question was a direct hit, and Portia flinched. More important than the truth? Spencer could have died there. He was tortured, Mom. Psychologically manipulated for months. And you knew and you did nothing. But Drew couldn't shake the betrayal. She knew Jason. All this time she knew and let me believe. Carly, ever the fighter, hired a private investigator. We're getting to the bottom of this. If there's a mistake, we'll find it. Meanwhile, at the mansion, Tracy schemed to consolidate power, seeing Drew's disqualification as an opportunity. Ned tried to mediate, but fractures deepened. Brooke Lynn, feeling the weight, confided in Chase. Grandma Monica was the glue. Without her, we're falling apart. As Drew delved into his past, he uncovered hints of a conspiracy involving Helena Cassadine, who had manipulated his life for years. Perhaps the DNA was tampered with, or maybe he was a Cassadine plant. The storyline twisted further when Nina Reeves, Drew's recent flame, offered support, but her own secrets threatened to surface. In a dramatic confrontation, Drew confronted the family. Blood or not, I've bled for this family. Monica's will doesn't change who I am. But the shock had changed everything. Fainting was just the beginning. The real feint was the family's unity crumbling. The days that followed were some of the most emotionally charged the Quartermaines had faced in years, and that was saying something for a family known for constant battles. Drew tried to keep a low profile, returning home from the hospital quietly and avoiding the spotlight, but the very nature of Monica's will made that impossible. Every member of the family seemed to interpret guardianship of the legacy differently, and their competing visions pulled Drew in a dozen directions at once. Olivia did her best to be a voice of reason, reminding everyone that Monica's wishes were rooted in love and unity. She encouraged them to stop fighting, and actually give Drew a chance to step into the role Monica had envisioned. But Ned remained restless, his pride wounded and his patience wearing thin. Though he kept his resentment quieter in front of Olivia, he confided in Brooke Lynn late one night. I can't just sit back and let Drew of all people be the one who defines this family. Do you know what that says about me? About everything I've built. Brooke Lynn tried to soothe him, but her loyalty was torn. She cared for Drew in her own way, but watching her father unravel made her defensive. Maybe Monica just wanted someone neutral, Dad. Maybe this isn't about replacing you. Ned's expression hardened. That's exactly what it is. Meanwhile, Michael became one of Drew's strongest allies. He knew firsthand what it was like to have the Quartermaine name come with both privilege and burden, and he respected that Drew wasn't chasing power. In quiet conversations at the hospital and later at the mansion, Michael encouraged Drew to focus less on the battles around him and more on the spirit of Monica's message. "She didn't mean for you to fight over ELQ or wealth," Michael told him one evening. "She meant for you to remind us what it actually means to be a Quartermaine: family, loyalty, second chances. You've lived that more than any of us." Drew wanted to believe that was true, but the look in Ned's eyes whenever they crossed paths made him fear the family would never accept his role. Even Tracy, who had made a career out of cutting down Quartermaine rivals, kept a watchful eye on Drew. She had been through enough corporate wars to know when a storm was brewing, and she could feel this one building quickly. In her private thoughts, she admitted Monica had surprised her. She never would have guessed Monica would entrust Drew of all people with such a personal legacy. And yet, Tracy couldn't help but see the logic. Drew wasn't as tangled in corporate ambitions as the rest. His detachment from greed might be his greatest strength. Still, Tracy knew the Quartermaine name was as much about power as it was about loyalty, and she quietly wondered if Drew would survive the onslaught of family politics headed his way. The outside world, of course, was paying close attention. At General Hospital, whispers circulated through the staff about Drew fainting at the will reading, about Monica's final words, about the shift in Quartermaine power. Elizabeth Weber approached him one afternoon, offering her condolences and her support. "Monica adored you," she said softly. "She saw something in you that maybe the rest of us overlook. Don't let anyone make you feel unworthy of that." Her words gave him a measure of peace, but he couldn't shake the growing pressure building on his shoulders. Carly, too, remained firmly in Drew's corner. Over coffee at the Metro Court, she reminded him of his resilience. "You've been through worse than this, Drew. You faced war, captivity, losing years of your life, and you came back stronger. Don't let a bunch of Quartermaine squabbles tear you down now." Drew smiled faintly, grateful for her steady presence, but admitted his fears. "It's not about me, Carly. It's about whether I can live up to what Monica wanted. She believed I could unify this family, but I don't know if that's even possible. We're not exactly a group that thrives on peace." Carly leaned closer, her tone firm. "Then don't think about uniting them overnight. Just honor her in the way you live. That's enough." Still, even as Drew tried to take Carly's advice, it became clear that Monica's decision had set off a chain reaction. Ned began making quiet phone calls to lawyers, investigating whether Monica's will could be contested. Tracy began watching ELQ stock movements closely, sensing that rival companies might exploit the internal chaos. Brooke Lynn debated whether to stand by her father, or give Drew a chance to step into his new role. And Michael, more than ever, doubled down on his determination to support Drew, sensing that his uncle was being set up for a brutal fight. One night, alone in his room at the mansion, Drew unfolded a letter that had been tucked into Monica's will. It was written in her handwriting, addressed only to him. His hands shook as he opened it, and tears blurred his vision as he read the words. "My dear Drew, if you are reading this, then I am no longer there to say it myself. I want you to know how proud I am of the man you are. You have endured unimaginable loss, but you never let it destroy your kindness. That is why I chose you. Because this family needs a heart that beats with compassion, not just ambition. They may fight you, they may resent you, but in time they will see what I see. Never doubt that you are my son. Never doubt that you are worthy." Drew pressed the letter to his chest, overcome with emotion. Monica's voice seemed to echo in the room, her presence lingering in every word. It was both the greatest gift and the heaviest responsibility he had ever been given. And though doubt gnawed at him, something inside whispered that Monica had chosen him for a reason he had yet to understand. The next morning, Drew walked into the Quartermaine breakfast room, clutching a mug of coffee as though it were armor. The familiar smell of bacon, toast, and fresh fruit filled the air, but the mood was anything but light-hearted. Ned sat at the table with his newspaper, though he wasn't really reading. His eyes followed every move Drew made, sharp and suspicious, as if silently daring him to take Monica's words too seriously. Olivia tried to bridge the silence, greeting Drew warmly and urging him to sit down. But Drew could feel the frost in the air, and it was clear that Ned's resentment wasn't cooling. The real source of Nina's fury revealed itself then. It wasn't just about business. It was about losing her influence over Michael Corinthos. She had seen him as her protégé, her ally, her way back into the inner circle of power in Port Charles. Willow resurgence threatened that entirely. It threatened the fragile sense of family and belonging she had desperately cobbled together with Michael and his son Wiley. He's choosing her, Nina whispered, the realization a bitter pill. Again. He always chooses her in the end. Olivia sighed. Nina, he's married to her. He should choose her. But Nina was no longer listening. A new dangerous light had entered her eyes. A plotting, scheming light. If Willow wanted a war, if she wanted to play dirty and try to take away the only family Nina had left, then a war was what she would get. Nina Reeves had been backed into corners before. She had learned how to fight dirty too. And she was prepared to burn all of Aurora Media to the ground if it meant she wouldn't lose her place in Michael's life. The world had shrunk to the four walls of a sterile visitation room at the Port Charles Maximum Security Facility. Sonny Corinthos sat on one side of the scarred plexiglass partition, his face a granite mask of conflicted emotion. On the other side, dressed in a standard-issue orange jumpsuit that made his skin look sallow, was Jason Morgan. His hands were cuffed to a bar on the counter. The silence between them was a chasm, filled with 20 years of brotherhood, sacrifice, and a betrayal that now felt absolute. Sonny picked up the black phone receiver. After a long moment, Jason did the same. "You look like hell," Sonny said, his voice gravelly and devoid of its usual warmth. Jason's expression didn't flicker. "Prison will do that." Another stretch of silence. Sonny struggled to find the words, to reconcile the man in front of him with the brother he had known, the brother he had grieved. "Why, Jason?" The question finally erupted from him, raw and pained. "After everything, why? Pikeman, you turned your back on me, on my family, on everything we built together." Jason's blue eyes, once so clear and focused, now seemed clouded, distant. "What we built was a house of cards, Sonny. It was always going to fall." Sonny flinched as if struck. "We protected this city. We kept order. We were criminals," Jason stated, his tone flat, robotic, almost as if he were reciting something he'd been told 1,000 times. "We perpetuated violence. We destroyed lives." Pikeman offered a purification, a purpose beyond blind loyalty to a flawed king. The words were so alien, so utterly unlike anything the real Jason would ever say, that it sent a chill down Sonny's spine. This wasn't his friend. This was a programmed weapon, spouting rhetoric fed to him by his captors. "That's not you talking," Sonny growled, leaning closer to the glass. "That's them. They got inside your head, Jason. They brainwashed you." A faint, almost imperceptible flicker of something, confusion, crossed Jason's face before the blank mask slammed down again. "My head has never been clearer. I see the world for what it is now. You're just a part of the problem I've been tasked to eliminate." The cold finality of it was a knife to Sonny's heart. He had held onto a sliver of hope that somewhere, buried deep, the real Jason was still in there fighting. That hope now evaporated, leaving behind a hollow, aching loss. "You listen to me," Sonny said, his voice dropping to a low, deadly whisper. "I don't know what they did to you. I don't know how they twisted you into this thing. But I'm going to find out. And I'm going to make them pay. And you're going to sit in this cell and you're going to remember. You're going to remember who you are. You're going to remember me. You're going to remember your son. Because we haven't given up on you, even if you've given up on yourself." For the briefest second, at the mention of his son, Jason's eyes seemed to focus. A muscle twitched in his jaw. It was there and gone so fast Sonny wondered if he'd imagined it. Then it was gone. Jason's gaze went vacant once more. "Don't waste your time." Sonny slowly hung up the phone. He stood, looking at the shell of his best friend for a long, painful moment. Then he turned and walked away, the door clanging shut behind him with a sound of terrible finality. The war with Pikeman was far from over. But the battle for Jason Morgan's soul had just begun, and Sonny feared it was a battle he had already lost. The late afternoon sun streamed into the living room of the Quartermain mansion, catching dust motes dancing in the air. The grand house was quiet, for once, the usual cacophony of family drama muted. Tracy Quartermain was meticulously polishing a silver picture frame, her movements sharp and precise, a testament to her simmering irritation. She was not a woman who enjoyed being kept in the dark, especially when it concerned her own family. and the recent whispered conversations between her nephew, Ned Quartermain, and his wife Olivia had all the hallmarks of a secret. A big one. She found Ned in his study, frowning at a spreadsheet on his computer. He looked up as she entered, his expression immediately shifting to one of guarded neutrality, a sure sign he was hiding something. "Out with it, Edwin," Tracy demanded, dispensing with any pleasantries. She placed the polished frame on his desk with a definitive thud. Ned sighed, removing his glasses and pinching the bridge of his nose. "Out with what, Tracy? I'm a busy man. Some of us still have companies to run." "Don't play dumb with me," she retorted, leaning on his desk. "You and Olivia have been as jumpy as cats on a hot tin roof for days, whispering in corners, exchanging significant looks. It's tedious. And it's concerning. What is going on?" Ned's jaw tightened. He knew Tracy well enough to know she was like a bloodhound with a bone. She wouldn't let this go. But the secret he and Olivia carried was a nuclear bomb, capable of decimating the already fragile peace of the Quartermain family. "It's a private matter, Tracy," he said, his tone final. "Between me and my wife. It doesn't concern you." Tracy's eyes narrowed into shrewd slits. "Everything in this house concerns me. This family is a delicate ecosystem. One wrong move, one poorly kept secret, and the whole thing comes crashing down. Now, is this about money? Is ELQ in trouble again? Because if it is, I have a right to know." "It's not about money," Ned said, a little too quickly. "A woman, then?" Tracy pressed, her voice dripping with disdain. "Have you been foolish enough to have an affair? Because I will not have another scandal, Edwin. Not after the last one." "It's not an affair," Ned snapped, his composure cracking. He stood up, turning his back to her to look out the window. "Just drop it, Tracy. Please. For once in your life, just respect a boundary." But his reaction, the anger, the evasion, only confirmed Tracy's suspicions that the secret was monumental. And a monumental secret in the Quartermain family was never a good thing. It usually involved paternity, illegitimacy, or long-lost heirs coming to claim their fortune. A cold dread began to pool in her stomach. She thought of Brooke Lynn, of Leo, of all the grandchildren. What could be so terrible that Ned would be this desperate to keep it hidden?